The sayings of Muhammad. Of cleanliness. 59. Were it not for fear of troubling my disciples, verily I would order them to clean their teeth before every prayer. 60. God is pure and loveth purity and cleanliness. Of compassion. 61. When the child of Zainab was brought to Muhammad, dying, its body trembling and moving, the eyes of the apostle of God shed many tears, and Sa'ad said, O messenger of God, what is this weeping and shedding of tears? Muhammad replied, This is an expression of the tenderness and compassion which the Lord hath put into the hearts of his servants. The Lord doth not have compassion on and commiserate with his servants, except such as are tender and full of feeling. Just realized I didn't comb my hair. 62. The apostle of God wept over Sa'ad bin Ubadah and said, Have not you heard that the Lord doth not punish on account of shedding tears, nor for sobs from the heart of the afflicted? He is not of the people of our way, who slappeth his cheeks, and teareth his collar, and mourneth like the mournings of ignorance. 63. There is no reward but paradise for a Muslim who suffereth with patience when the soul of his affectionate friend is taken. Well, he goes through the hardship. Suffering has some implications and terms, but this is the old English. This is an older English way of speaking. That, yeah, has implications. 64. Once Muhammad went together with some of his companions to Abu Yusuf, blacksmith, who was the husband of the nurse of Muhammad's son Ibrahim. And the apostle of God took Ibrahim and kissed him and embraced him. On another occasion they went to see Ibrahim when he was in his dying moments. Then the eyes of Muhammad were fixed and flowed with tears, and Abdullah Rahman, son of Auf, said to the messenger of God, Do you weep and shed tears, O apostle of God? He said, O son of Auf, these tears are compassion and feeling due to the dead. After that he shed tears again, and said, Verily my eyes shed tears, and my heart is afflicted, and I say nothing but what is pleasing to my benefactor. For I, verily, O Ibrahim, melancholy at being separated from thee. The morning in the dark age of Arabia, or the age of idolatry, loud lamentations, wailing, slapping the cheeks, etc., were common, but silent grief was not too well known. But a lot of things we know what's dramatic and what's not so much what's common. 65. Muhammad asks, Do you think this woman will cast her own child into the fire? Those present said, No. Muhammad said, Verily, God is more compassionate on his creatures than this woman on her own child. When one of the family Muhammad died, and the women assembled, crying over the corpse, Umar stood up to prevent them from crying and drive them away. But Muhammad said, Let them alone, O Umar, because eyes are shedders of tears, and the heart is stricken with calamity and sorrowful, and the time of misfortune is near and fresh, and the crying of the women is without wailing of consciousness. 67. A man asked Muhammad what was the mark whereby he might know the reality of his faith. Muhammad said, If thou derive pleasure from the good which thou hast performed, and thou be grieved for the evil which thou hast committed, thou art a true believer. The man said, In what doth a fault really consist? Muhammad said, When anything pricketh thy consciousness, forsake it. 68. All actions are judged by the motives prompting them. Of contentment, 69. Riches are not from abundance of worldly goods, but from a contented mind. 70. When you see a person who has been given more than you in money and beauty, then look to those who have been given less. 71. Look to those inferior to yourselves, so that you may not hold God's benefits in contempt. 72. God loveth those who are content. Of control of self. The most excellent jihad is that for the conquest of self. Now remember that in English, jihad means something different than it does in Arabic. In Arabic, it would translate over into a struggle. Doing the right thing when it's not the easiest thing. 74. The exercise of religious duties will not atone for the fault of an abusive tongue. 75. A man cannot be a Muslim till his heart and tongue are so. 76. Whoever hath been given gentleness hath been given a good portion in this world and the next. 77. Whoever suppresseth his anger, when he hath in his power to show it, God will give him a great reward. 78. That person who is wise and sensible, who subdueth his cardinal desires and hopeth for rewards from God. And he is an ignorant man who followeth his lustful appetites, and with all this accepteth God's forgiveness. The Islam of heart is its purity, and the Islam of the tongue withholding it from fruitless words. Okay. 79. May God fill the heart of that person who suppresseth his anger with safety and faith. 80. Give me advice, said someone. Muhammad said, be not angry. 81. Mu'az said, at the time of my being dispatched to the judgeship of Yemen, the last advice Muhammad gave me was this: O Mu'az, be of good temper towards people. 82. He is not strong and powerful, who throweth people down, but he is strong who withholdeth himself from anger. 83. Did I list the number 82 before he? 83. No person hath drunk a better draught than that of anger, which he hath swallowed for God's sake. Of courtesy. 84. Humility and courtesy are acts of piety. 85. Verily a man teaching his child manners is better for him than giving 1 bushel of grain in alms. 86. It is not right for a guest to stay so long as to incommode his host. 87. No father hath given his child anything better than good manners. 88. O apostle of God, inform me if I stop with a man, and he doth not entertain me, and he afterwards stoppeth at my house. Am I to entertain him, or act with him, as he did with me? Muhammad said, entertain him. 89. Respect people according to their eminence. 90. Being confined for room, apostle of God sat down upon his legs, drawn up under his thighs. A desert Arab who was present said, what is this way of sitting? Muhammad said, verily, God hath made me a humble servant, and not a proud king. 91. Abuse nobody, and if a man abuse thee, and lay open a vice which he knoweth in thee, then do not disclose one which thou knowest in him. 92. When victuals are placed before you, no man must stand up till it be taken away, nor must one man leave off eating before the rest, and if he doeth, he must make an apology. 93. It is of my ways that a man shall come out with his guest to the door of his house. 94. Meekness and modesty are two branches of Iman, faith, and the vain talking and embellishing are two branches of hypocrisy. 95. When three persons are together, two of them must not whisper to each other without letting the third hear until others are present, because it would hurt him. And there's a note. Oh, the apology. Imam Jafar Sadiq said the apostle used, when he ate in company, to eat to the last and did not leave off before others. Of crimes. 96. The greatest crimes are to associate another with God, to vex your father and mother, to murder your own species, to commit suicide, and to swear to a lie. Of cultivation of land. Getting rumbly in the tumbly. I'm not sure if you can hear my stomach growling back and forth at times here, but yeah, right in there. Yeah. It will eat soon enough. 97. There is no Muslim who planted the tree, or soweth the field, and man, birds, or beasts eat from them, but it is a charity for him. 98. Whoever bringeth the dead land to life, that is, cultivateth waste land, for him is reward therein. Of the dead. 99. And behold, a bier passed before Muhammad, and he stood up, and it was said to him, This is the bier of a Jew. He said, Was it not the holder of a soul from which we should take example and fear? 100. Muhammad passed by some graves in Medina, and turned his face towards them, and said, Peace to you, O people of the graves. May God forgive us and you. You have passed on before us, and we are following you. 101. Do not speak ill of the dead. 102. When the bier of anyone passeth by thee, whether Jew, Christian, or Muslim, rise to thy feet. And I think the last one, when the bier of anyone passes by thee, whether Jew, Christian, or Muslim, rise to thy feet. Okay, they had that one twice, but they've left some out, as one could see. Of death, 103. And remember, there's 4 that we started with to sum up the whole thing that were listed separately numbered. So, of death, 103. Wish not for death, any one of you, neither the doer of good works, but peradventure he may increase them by an increase of life, nor the offender, for perhaps he may obtain the forgiveness of God by repentance. Wish not, nor supplicate for death before its time cometh. For verily, when ye die, hope is out, and the ambition for a reward, and verily the increase of a mu'min's life, a believer's life, increaseth his good works. 104. Remember often the destroyer and cutter off of delights, which is death. 105. Not one of you must wish for death from any worldly affliction, but there certainly is anyone wishing for death, he must say, O Lord, keep me alive so long as life may be good for me, and cause me to die when it is better for me to do so. 106. The faithful do not die. Perhaps they become translated from this perishable world to the world of eternal existences. Well, that doesn't sound right, like it's translated right, but basically, yeah, we're living in God, we're just translated. 107. Death is a blessing to a Muslim. Remember and speak well of your dead, and refrain from speaking ill of them. 108. There are 2 things disliked by the sons of Adam, one of them death, whereas it is better for Muslimin than sinning. The second is scarcity of money, whereas its account will be small in futurity. 109. The grave is the first stage of the journey into eternity. 110. Death is a bridge that uniteth friend with friend. 111. Sleep is the brother of death. 112. Muhammad said 3 days before his death, not one of you must die, but with a resignation to the will of God, and with the hope for his beneficence and pardon of debt. 113. Whoso desireth that God should redeem him from the sorrows and travail of the last day, must delay in calling on poor debtors, or forgive the debt in part or whole. 114. A martyr shall be pardoned every fault but debt. 115. Whoso hath a thing wherewith to discharge a debt, and refuseth to do it, it is right to dishonor and punish him. So remember, when you're in debt, that's anything good you can think to do that you don't have to do. You're with your money, you really got to pay off your debts as a priority. Of deliberation. 116. Deliberation is in undertakings is pleasing to God. 117. A good disposition and deliberation in affairs, and a medium in all things, are one part of 24 parts of the qualities of the prophets. Of the disposition to good. 118. He is of the most perfect Muslimin, whose dispositions is most liked by his own family. 119. Verily, the most beloved of you by me, and nearest to me in the next world, are those of good dispositions. And verily, the greatest enemies to me, and the farthest from me, are the ill-tempered. 120. Verily, the most beloved of you by me are those of the best dispositions. 121. I have been sent to explain fully good dispositions. 122. O Lord, as thou hast made my body good, so make good my disposition. 123. Two qualities are not combined in any Muslim: avarice and bad disposition. Of disposition. 124. Mankind will not go astray after having found the right road, unless from disputation. Of divorce. 125. Every woman who acteth to be divorced from her husband without cause, the fragrance of the garden is forbidden her. 126. The thing which is lawful, but disliked by God, is divorce. Of the duty of believers. 127. I have left two things among you, and you will not stray as long as you hold them fast. One is the book of God, the other the laws of his messenger. 120. And that's perhaps when he repeated it 3 times, he used different words. He says he's left his tradition, he's left his companions, he's left his house. And by house, it goes beyond the family thing. Wasn't the Persian specifically considered part of the house? But not the house, those of the house under the cloak, referred to in Surah 3 and Surah 33. But there's broader thing. 128. God hath made a straight road with 2 walls, one on each side of it, in which are open doors, with curtains drawn across. At the top of the road is an admonisher, who saith, Go straight on the road, not crooked. And above this admonisher is another, who saith to anyone who would pass through these doorways, Pass not through these doors. Those doors are verily ye will fall. Now the road is Islam, and the open doors are those things which God hath forbidden, and the curtains before the doors are the bounds set by God. The admonisher is the Quran, and the upper admonisher, God, in the heart of every Muslim. 129. Verily, ye are ordered the divine commandments, then forsake them not. Ye are forbidden the unlawful, then do not fall therein. There are fixed boundaries, then pass not beyond them, and there is silence on some things without their being forgotten. Then do not debate about them. 130. Happy is the mu'min, believer. For if good befalleth him, he praiseth and thanketh God, and if misfortune praiseth God and beareth it patiently. Therefore a mu'min is rewarded for every good he doth, even for his raising a morsel of food to the mouth of his wife. 131. Whoever hath eaten of pure food and practiced my laws, and mankind hath lived in security from him, will enter into the abode of bliss. 132. Muhammad once said to Anas, Son, if you are able to keep your heart from morning till night, and from night till morning, free from malice towards anyone, then he said, O my son, this is one of my laws, and he who loveth my laws verily loveth me. 133. I admonish you to fear God and yield obedience to my successor, although he may be a black slave, for this reason, that those amongst you who may live after me will see great schisms. Therefore hold fast to my ways, and those of my successors, who may lead you in the straight path, having found it themselves, and ardently seize my laws, and be firm thereto. So, of course, there's the difference between those who hold fast to the ways and those who've succeeded in more than political lines. But 134. There was not any messenger sent before me by God to mankind, but found friends and companions who embraced his maxims and became his disciples, after which were born those who gave out precepts which they did not practice, and did what they were not ordered to do. Therefore those who oppose them with the hand, with the tongue, and with the heart are mu'mins, and there is not anything in Iman besides this, even as much as a grain of mustard seed. 135. Do not associate any one with God, although they kill or burn you, or affront intentionally your parents, although they should order you to quit your wife, your children, and your property. Do not drink wine, for it is the root of all evil. This goes further. Don't use any intoxicant. The early people, even the coffee and the caffeinated leaves, they've stayed away from that, but eventually people in the Islamic community have convinced themselves that pretty much everybody does that. And cigarettes, which were more obvious tobacco was a more obvious intoxicant. Well, that became largely accepted, although it's not as largely accepted. But it's, more prone to violence and a lot of other issues than even some of the illegal ones. I mean, illegal by secular law drugs. Abstain from vice, and when a pestilence shall pervade mankind, and you shall be amongst them, remain with them, and cherish your children. 136. There are 3 roots to Iman, faith: not to trouble him who shall say, there is no deity but a God; not to think him an unbeliever on account of one fault, and not to discard him for one crime. As long as you got some semblance of the 5 pillars, and by semblance I don't mean that you commit shirk or deny that Muhammad's a prophet, but you do accept God, and partially I don't mean that, but other than that, one maintains an outer status of Islam, even in the failures in those regards. 137. He is not a good mu'min who committeth adultery, any sex act outside of marriage, or getteth drunk, who stealeth, or plundereth, or who embezzleth. Beware, beware. Well, one's not a mu'min at all. One's not a believer at all if one, at least during those acts. 138. When asked to mention one of the most excellent parts of Iman, faith, Muhammad said to love him who loveth God, and to hate him who hateth God. Just like in the Quran, it's not saying that God hates anybody, it's God's not showing the love. You don't show the love, but you do love the individual. Wad versus, you know, taking in an express. And to keep your tongue employed in repeating the name of God. What else, he said, to do unto all men as you would wish to have done unto you, and to reject for others what you would reject for yourself. 139. He who progresseth daily is yet far off from the ideal. 140. When you speak, speak the truth. Perform when you promise. Discharge your trust. Commit not fornication. Any extramarital sex act, it's wider than. Be chaste. Have no impure desires. Habits, character. Withhold your hands from striking, and from taking that which is unlawful or evil. The best of God's servants are those who, when seen, remind of God. The worst of God's servants are those who carry tales about, to do mischief, and separate friends, and seek for the defects of the good. 141. He who believeth in one God and the hereafter, let him speak what is good, or remain silent. 142. He who believeth in one God and the life beyond, let him not injure his neighbors. 143. Speak to men according to their mental capacities, for if you speak all things to all men, some cannot understand you, and so fall into errors. 144. It is not a sixth or a tenth of man's devotion which is acceptable to God, but only such portions thereof as he offereth with understanding and true devotional spirit. 145. Verily your deeds will be brought back to you, as if you yourself were the creator of your own punishment. 146. Adore God as thou wouldest if thou sawest him, for if thou seest him not, he seeth thee. Now remember, we're using a gender-neutral form here. Islam has, making partners and associations, we don't do that, so we don't put gender and that sort of thing, as if that has something to do with God. Feed the hungry and visit the sick, and free the captive, if he be unjustly confined. Assist any person oppressed, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. 148. The duties of Muslimin, could be Muslimun, I'm not sure which the Arabic was, to each other are 6. It was asked, what are they, O Messenger of God? He said, when you meet a Muslim, greet him, and when he inviteth you to dinner, accept, and when he asketh you for advice, give it to him, and when he sneezeth and saith, praise be to God, do you say, may God have mercy upon thee? And when he is sick, visit him, and when he dieth, follow his bier. This life is but a tillage for the next. Do good that ye may reap there. For striving is the ordinance of God, and whatever God hath ordained can only be attained by striving. 150. Commandments are of 3 kinds. One commands an action, the reward of which is clear, then do it. Another forbids an action, which leads astray, abstain from it. And in another arise contradictions, resign that to God. 151. The world is forbidden to those of the life to come. The life to come is forbidden to those of this world. 152. Do a good deed after every bad deed, that it may blot out the latter. 153. A true believer, is thankful to God in prosperity, and resigned to his will in adversity. 154. That which is lawful is clear, and that which is unlawful likewise, but there are certain doubtful things between the two from which it is well to abstain. 155. Be ye imbued with divine qualities. 156. He is true who protecteth his brethren, both present and absent. 157. All Muslimin are as one body. If a man complaineth of a pain in his head, his whole body complaineth. And if his eye complaineth, his whole body complaineth. Al Muslimin, 158. Al Muslimin, well, might as well say, Al Muslimin are like the component parts of a foundation, each strengthening the others. In such a way must they support each other. 159. Assist your brother Muslim, whether he be an oppressor or an oppressed. But how shall we do it when he is an oppressor? Inquired a companion. Muhammad replied, assisting an oppressor consists in forbidding and withholding him from oppression. 160. Al-Muslimin are brothers in religion, and they must not oppress one another, nor abandon assisting each other, nor hold one another in contempt. The seat of righteousness is the heart. Therefore that heart which is righteousness does not hold a Muslim in contempt. And all the things of one Muslim are unlawful to another, his blood, property, and reputation. 161. The creation is as God's family, for its sustenance is from him. Therefore the most beloved unto God is the person who doeth good to God's family. 162. Is it God's house? Is it Ahl Baitullah? Is that the word being used? The phrase. 162. The proof of a Muslim's sincerity is that he payeth no heed to that which is not his business. 163. The faithful are those who perform their trust and fail not in their word and keep their pledge. 76. 164. No man is a true believer unless he desireth for his brother that which he desireth for himself. 165. Verily, when a Muslim is taken ill, after which God restoreth him to health, his illness hath covered his former faults, and it is an admonition to him of what cometh in future times. And verily, when a hypocrite is taken ill, and afterwards restored to health, he is like a camel which hath been tied up, and afterwards set free. For the camel did not know, for want of discrimination, why they tied him up, and why they let him loose. Such is the hypocrite. On the contrary, a mu'min knoweth, and his indisposition was to atone for his faults. 166. Misfortune is always with a Muslim and his wife, either in their persons or their property or children, either death or sickness, until they die, when there is no fault upon them.